Ladies and gentlemen, when you begin to truly understand the force of words, you start to realize that they are not just sounds that come out of your mouth. They are not just sentences written on a page. They are currents of energy, invisible frequencies that can either create or destroy, elevate or diminish. Every single word carries a vibration. And when those words are rooted in verses of truth, they begin to vibrate at a frequency so high that darkness cannot stay in their presence. Think about this. Your life is being constructed moment by the language you use, the thoughts you accept, and the beliefs you repeat to yourself. If you walk into your home every day and declare silently or aloud that you are tired, that life is heavy, that you are unlucky, you are sending out commands into the invisible. You are inviting those exact vibrations to shape your reality, and soon your home becomes a place filled with stress, negativity, and heaviness. But when you introduce verses of truth into that space, when you speak them with belief, you disrupt the frequency of fear and you align your environment with power. The human mind works like a transmitter and receiver. It picks up energy, it sends energy, and it translates that energy into feelings and outcomes. Verses are designed not only to give guidance, but to transmit light into the mind. You cannot see light in a word the way you see light in a lamp, but you can feel it. You can sense when a verse settles into your spirit. It is as if your inner atmosphere shifts. That is not imagination, that is resonance. A verse vibrates at a higher level than worry, anxiety, or depression, and when you speak it with conviction, you override the lower frequencies that may have been operating in your home. Demons cannot survive in the presence of higher vibration. They thrive in fear, doubt, and self-condemnation. But when words of power are spoken, those low states have no authority anymore. Look around at people who seem to live in constant negativity. They speak about everything going wrong. They affirm limitations. They repeat the story of why they cannot succeed. Their words have built walls around them. They do not need a demon from the outside because the demons within are already fed daily by their speech. Now imagine the reverse, someone who speaks verses of courage, of faith, of divine strength. That person may still face problems, but the energy around them is different. Their home feels different. There is clarity, there is hope, there is resilience. That difference comes from words spoken consistently with belief. Science itself shows us that sound creates patterns. If you put sand on a plate and strike certain frequencies, you will see geometric shapes appear. The sound organizes the matter. Words are sound, and when you speak them repeatedly, they organize the invisible matter of your environment. Your home is not just walls and furniture. It is a field of energy. It holds the memory of your emotions, your arguments, your laughter, your pain. Every word leaves an imprint. That is why verses are so powerful. They cleanse the atmosphere. They reorder the energy. They bring structure where chaos once existed. Speaking them is not a ritual. It is a technology. The greatest mistake people make is to treat verses as lifeless text, as though reading them casually will produce change. But the truth is, the verse only works when it is alive in you. When you speak it not just with your lips, but with your entire belief system, it becomes a command. Words backed by faith release power. Words backed by doubt fall flat. You cannot kill demons with half-hearted whispers. You must declare truth with the certainty that it is already done. The moment you speak from that place of authority, the atmosphere responds. Fear loses its grip. Confusion begins to clear, and a new vibration fills the room. You see, the subconscious mind does not reject repetition. It accepts what is spoken over and over again, whether positive or negative, and it begins to shape your emotions and actions around those words. That is why verses are so vital. They are not only spiritual weapons, they are instructions to your subconscious, reminding it who you are, what authority you carry, and what cannot remain in your space. If you allow negative words to dominate, your subconscious will invite fear and chaos into your reality. If you choose verses of truth and power, your subconscious will align with faith, confidence, and clarity. Over time, that shift becomes visible. The demons of anxiety, anger, or despair that once had space in your home suddenly find no place to rest. Every time you declare a verse with intention, you are raising the vibration in your environment. You are saying to unseen forces, this is the frequency of my home. If you cannot match it, you cannot stay here. And make no mistake, energy responds to command. Darkness only has power where it is given permission through neglect or agreement. The moment you withdraw agreement and replace it with the authority of truth, the balance shifts. It is not about religion. It is not about empty ritual. It is about law, universal, unbreakable law. High vibration overcomes low vibration every time, and verses are among the highest forms of vibration when spoken with conviction. Think for a moment of your own daily speech. How many times do you declare what you don't want versus how many times you affirm what you do want? Most people reinforce their struggles more than their victories. They say, I'm broke, I'm sick, I'm stressed, and those words invite more of the same. But when you begin to speak verses like, I am strong, no weapon formed against me shall prosper, or The truth sets me free. Something begins to shift. Your subconscious accepts it, your energy field radiates it, and your environment transforms accordingly. You begin to see demons of fear, addiction, and hopelessness lose their foothold, not because you fought them with physical weapons, but because you elevated your vibration beyond their reach. The greatest deception many people fall into is thinking that the demons they fight are only outside of them. They imagine negative forces as shadows lurking in the corner of a room or external enemies plotting against them, when in truth the most dangerous demons are the ones that live quietly inside the mind. These inner demons do not roar, they whisper. They whisper thoughts of fear, of inadequacy, of laziness, of procrastination, of anger, of jealousy. And when those whispers are not challenged, they grow louder until they dictate every action, every emotion, and every decision. The demons in your home are not just spiritual entities floating in the air. They are patterns of thought, states of mind, and cycles of behavior that attach themselves to your daily life. Overcoming them starts within, because your environment is a reflection of your internal state. If you are filled with doubt, your home will feel heavy. If you are filled with bitterness, your conversations at home will be toxic. If you are filled with procrastination, your household will be disorganized and stagnant. You cannot cast out what you continue to feed. That is the law. If every day you indulge thoughts of self-pity, then self-pity becomes a guest in your house. If every morning you replay the story of why you are not good enough, then failure sits at your table. These are the inner demons, and they are far more destructive than the external ones because they operate under your permission. Fear grows because you allow it to sit in your imagination. Anger grows because you replay offenses in your mind. Laziness grows because you justify it with excuses. Once these inner demons gain strength, they begin to manifest externally. You begin to see arguments in the home, financial struggles, health challenges, emotional breakdowns. The external chaos is often just the mirror of the internal chaos. So overcoming demons in your home means confronting the ones inside you first. It means being ruthless with your inner world, because that is the birthplace of every result in your life. You must ask yourself daily, what am I allowing to live rent-free in my mind? Am I entertaining thoughts that weaken me, or am I cultivating thoughts that empower me? You cannot decorate your home with positivity if your mind is a breeding ground for negativity. The walls will still absorb the frequency of your hidden thoughts. This is why verses are so effective. When you speak them with belief, they do not just cleanse the air in your living room, they cleanse the corridors of your mind. They replace the whispers of demons with the declaration of truth. Think about the demon of fear for a moment. It does not need to scream. It only needs to plant the thought that you cannot, and the rest of your actions collapse around that seed. Or consider the demon of laziness. It does not come with chains. It comes with the soft, comfortable suggestion that you can do it tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes next week becomes never. The demon of anger feeds off your pride, convincing you that holding grudges is justified. Before long, your relationships deteriorate, your home becomes hostile, and peace has no space to enter. Each of these inner demons thrives because you supply them with energy through repeated focus. But the moment you confront them, the moment you stop feeding them, they begin to weaken. You confront fear by choosing faith and speaking verses that affirm strength and courage. You confront laziness by acting despite your feelings, by declaring discipline over comfort. You confront anger by replacing revenge with forgiveness, not because others deserve it, but because you refuse to host poison in your own mind. Overcoming inner demons is not about waiting for them to disappear. It is about starving them daily until they lose their grip. And the tool that starves them is the consistent repetition of higher truths spoken aloud, felt deeply, and acted upon with discipline. Your home is the extension of your inner atmosphere. If you are at war within yourself, your home will not be peaceful. You might clean the furniture, light candles, and rearrange things, but if you carry unresolved bitterness, the air will still feel heavy. If you carry constant worry, your household will feel unstable. That is because energy is contagious, and whatever dominates you internally will radiate into your environment. Children pick it up, spouses feel it, even visitors sense it. Some people step into a house and immediately feel peace. Others step into another and immediately feel tension. That is the residue of the inner demons of those who live there. To kill the demons in your home, you must declare war against the ones within you. You cannot demand peace in your household if you are addicted to conflict in your mind. You cannot expect joy in your family if your private thoughts are saturated with sorrow and defeat. You must be bold enough to recognize that the real battlefield is not out there, but in here, inside your own consciousness. Once you cleanse yourself, once you shift your thoughts, once you take dominion over your inner state, the external atmosphere will follow. This is why verses hold such transformative power. They speak directly to the inner man, to the deepest part of your being where those demons attempt to hide. When spoken repeatedly, they dislodge fear, they weaken doubt, they suffocate laziness, they silence anger. They are like light flooding a dark room. No matter how long the darkness has been there, it cannot resist the arrival of light. That light begins within you, and when it radiates outward, your home becomes a sanctuary, a fortress, a place where demons find no entry point because the gatekeeper of the mind no longer allows them access. Faith and fear cannot occupy the same space at the same time. They are opposing forces, and whichever one you choose to give attention to will dominate your life. Faith is a weapon, sharp and unstoppable, while fear is the demon that sneaks in through cracks in your thinking. Fear feeds on uncertainty, on hesitation, on the stories you repeat to yourself about why things will not work out. Faith, on the other hand, feeds on truth, on conviction, on the unseen certainty that even if the circumstances look impossible, the outcome is already decided in your favor. The battle between faith and fear is happening inside every human being, and it determines whether the home becomes a sanctuary filled with strength or a prison haunted by negative energy. Fear enters easily because it disguises itself as logic. It convinces you that you are being realistic, that you are simply preparing for the worst. It tells you not to try because you might fail. It tells you to hold back because rejection will hurt. It tells you to stay in the shadows because stepping into the light will expose you. And each time you agree with it, each time you nod and stay silent, the demon of fear grows stronger. It begins to decorate your home with invisible chains. You wake up in the morning and already feel heavy. You enter a room and sense an unspoken tension. That is fear spreading its energy, multiplying through every decision you refuse to make, every opportunity you walk past, every conversation you avoid. Faith, however, is not blind optimism. It is alignment with power. It is the unshakable decision to believe in possibility even when the evidence around you seems thin. Faith does not need physical proof, because it draws from a higher frequency. When you speak verses with faith, you are not simply reciting words. You are transmitting certainty into the atmosphere. The verse becomes a command, a decree, a declaration that fear cannot dispute. Fear may try to whisper, but when faith speaks with authority, the whispers are drowned out. Faith says, it is already done. Fear says, what if it doesn't work? The difference lies in which one you choose to amplify with your words and your emotions. Verses function as bridges between faith and action. They remind you of truth in moments when fear tries to rewrite your story. Imagine someone walking through their home at night, feeling the weight of anxiety pressing in. If that person begins to speak a verse with conviction, their voice becomes a vibration that shifts the atmosphere. It is not the sound alone, but the belief backing it that creates the change. Fear cannot linger where faith is actively expressed because fear has no authority unless you give it permission. Demons thrive in silence, in hesitation, in doubt. Faith kills them because faith refuses to be silent. Faith declares boldly, it affirms consistently, it takes steps even when feelings resist. You can think of fear as a parasite. It cannot create anything by itself. It only attaches itself to your thoughts and multiplies when you feed it with attention. Faith, in contrast, is generative. It produces strength. It generates new opportunities. It opens doors that fear had convinced you were locked. When faith is activated in a household, you notice the shift immediately. The conversations change. The energy becomes lighter. Hope is felt in the atmosphere. It does not mean problems disappear instantly, but it does mean that problems no longer dominate the environment. Faith takes the lead, and fear loses its place at the table. The truth is, fear will always knock. It will always try to creep in, especially in moments of uncertainty. But you must understand that fear has no power until you entertain it. If you respond with a verse, if you answer that knock with faith-filled words, the door stays closed. The demon cannot enter. Too many people keep their homes open to fear because they rehearse it daily. They imagine the worst case scenario. They tell themselves stories of failure. And without realizing it, they invite fear to sit in the center of their household. That is why verses matter. They give you the script of truth so that when fear comes knocking, you are not left scrambling for words. You already have the language of faith ready to fire back. Faith is not passive. It requires discipline. It requires that you choose it over and over again, even when your emotions disagree. There will be mornings when you wake up feeling overwhelmed, but that is the precise moment you must declare faith. There will be nights when doubt creeps in, but that is the exact time to speak the verse louder. Every repetition builds strength. Every declaration adds weight to your faith and strips weight from your fear. Over time, the balance shifts and fear finds no place in your home because it is starved of your attention. This is not about pretending fear doesn't exist. It is about refusing to let it govern you. When you understand that faith is the weapon, you stop negotiating with fear. You stop giving it reasons, excuses, or explanations. Instead, you confront it directly with the authority of truth. And once you learn to do that consistently, you realize that the demons in your home are powerless in the face of a mind trained to choose faith over fear every day when you wake up. You are stepping onto a battlefield that is not always visible to the human eye. The battle is for your mind, for your emotions, for the atmosphere of your home, and the most dangerous enemy is often subtle. Negative energy, doubt, and destructive thoughts are constantly searching for cracks to slip through. That is why verses are more than just words, they are armor. They clothe you in a spiritual protection that shields not only your heart and mind, but also the environment you live in. When spoken with repetition and conviction, they create a force field, a protective wall that separates you from the destructive influences trying to seep into your home. Think about the way armor functions. It does not stop the attack from coming, but it prevents the attack from penetrating. Verses do the same. You may still face challenges, you may still encounter opposition, but when you have armored yourself with truth, those arrows of fear, worry, and negativity cannot reach the core of who you are. They may scratch the surface, but they cannot pierce the spirit that is protected by the shield of truth. Every time you declare a verse with belief, you are adding another layer of armor, and unlike physical armor, this protection does not weigh you down. It strengthens you. It makes you lighter. It gives you confidence to move forward. Most people walk through life unprotected, unaware that their thoughts and words are leaving them exposed. They speak defeat. They speak sickness. They speak lack. And in doing so, they remove their armor piece by piece until they are completely vulnerable to the attacks of fear and doubt. A home without protection becomes a playground for demons, a place where negativity multiplies because nothing is stopping it. But when you choose to consistently clothe yourself in verses, you are declaring that your household is not open ground for destruction. You are drawing a boundary, a line that says nothing enters here unless it aligns with truth. Armor must be worn daily, not occasionally. You do not put it on once and assume you are safe forever. Every day brings new challenges, new distractions, new attempts from negative forces to wear you down. That is why repetition matters. Just as you would never walk into battle without your shield, you should never begin your day without speaking words of power over yourself and your home. Each verse strengthens the structure of your inner world, and when the inner world is fortified, the outer environment follows. A mind armed with truth cannot be easily shaken. A spirit clothed in conviction cannot be easily defeated. Consider the demon of anxiety. It attacks by planting what-if scenarios in your head, leaving you restless and fearful of things that haven't even happened. If you are unarmored, those arrows pierce you immediately, and you spend the day in worry, carrying tension in your body, snapping at loved ones, and polluting the energy of your home. But if you have armed yourself with a verse that reminds you of peace and strength, those arrows hit the armor and fall powerless to the ground. The attack came, but it could not penetrate. This is the difference between living exposed and living protected. Another way armor works is through consistency. When soldiers wear armor daily, it becomes second nature. They no longer even think about it. It is simply a part of who they are. The same is true with verses. At first, it may feel like an effort to repeat them, to declare them with conviction. But over time, they fuse with your identity. You no longer just recite the words, you embody them. They shape your thoughts, they guide your emotions, they determine your actions. And when that happens, the armor is no longer something you put on. It becomes who you are. Demons cannot attack what is consistently armed with truth. They may try, but their power lies in deception, and deception cannot penetrate armor made of conviction. When you walk through your home declaring words of strength and peace, the walls absorb it, the atmosphere shifts, and those who enter feel the difference. They may not understand it, but they sense it. That is the power of a home protected by verses. It becomes a sanctuary, a fortress, a place where destructive energy cannot thrive. And remember, armor is not only for defense. It also gives you the confidence to move forward, to act boldly, to face challenges without hesitation. A soldier who knows he is well protected does not cower in fear, he advances. In the same way, when you are armored with truth, you do not spend your life hiding from negativity or avoiding battles. You confront them directly, knowing that you are shielded. You can walk into situations others find intimidating, and instead of shrinking back, you expand. That expansion begins in your mind, but it radiates outward until it touches every corner of your life, including the atmosphere of your home. The demons that thrive in fear, confusion, and doubt cannot survive in a place filled with armored minds. They are suffocated by the frequency of truth. And once you understand this, once you live it daily, you realize that you are never unarmed, you are never defenseless. The verses you carry, the words you speak, the beliefs you embody, these are your weapons and your shield, and they are enough to silence the destructive forces that try to invade your life